G'day, I'm Sean and welcome back to the Car Expert Podcast. Things are a little different this week. Scott has left us, but he is coming back a little bit later on. James is away and in his place is Josh Nevett. Josh, how are you, mate?
Thanks for having me. It's a whole different team this week, different dynamic, should be fun.
We're changing it up. We're just, this might be 1 week only. This might be the future going forward. We've got to navigate in a post-Scott Colley world, and that's why Josh is here to help us out. He's going to be talking about some big changes from Toyota, and he's wearing socks, which is also impressive. And also back from quite the hiatus is one Jack Quick. Jack,
hello,
how are you, mate?
Everyone. It has been quite a while. A lot of stuff has happened since I last saw you, and if you'd like, I can get into it just a little bit. Is that all right?
Absolutely. Well, just to explain, normally you see Jack sitting over the back there at his desk. He hasn't been there a while. Some eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that. But Jack, where have you been?
Yes, so big story, huge story. Back in May, I was in a car accident, unfortunately, single car. It was just me. I was driving an MX-5 and I crashed on a racetrack. And in the process, I broke virtually all of myself. I absolutely smashed my ankle. I broke my fibula. I fractured 2 vertebrae in my back. And I also fractured my sternum. So that was all of that kind of fun stuff that was broken. Thankfully, the only thing that needed surgery was my ankle, my fibula. So I have a little plate in there now, which is quite fun. You might be able to notice the scar on my leg. So that's from that surgery. So I've spent a long time off work, just recovering because I was very broken. I was just mainly focusing on recovering, healing myself. So that I had 6 weeks of non-weight bearing, so I couldn't walk. I had to use crutches. Once that period ended, I had to relearn how to walk, essentially. But that was a little while ago now, and I'm back at work now full time. And I've also just come back from a 5-week European brat summer, which I really, really enjoyed. There were some fantastic cars over there, some that we don't get in Australia, including plenty of Dacias and all like these little cute little quadricycles like the Citroen Ami. And I was literally obsessed. I loved it.
Yes, I remember on your social media, you would post every Jimny that you saw whilst you were there.
I wanted to make a point of it just because I own a Jimny, and I wanted to say, Jimny spotting, like, look at all these cool Jimnys. There are a lot of previous generation models, but I was surprised to not see more current models. It does make sense, though, given the car has been axed due to emissions regulations over in Europe.
Now, I do have to ask, given the damage that you did to yourself, how's it been driving your manual Jimny?
Yeah, well, I was actually quite scared at first. I was scared that I'd not quite be able to drive a manual car the same. So I took a long time just to really not drive. Obviously, I couldn't for a long time, but I wanted to be very cautious. But when I first got into my Jimny, when I was cleared to do so, I was surprised how easy it was. It was like muscle memory. It all came back to me like riding a bike. The only thing that felt a little strange was the pressure sensation because I hadn't really pushed anything that hard in a fair while. But yeah, it all came back to me very easily, and now it's like, it's no problem at all. I can walk, run, drive manuals. I've also been cleared to drive on racetracks again, which is very fun.
Excellent. So Jack versus MX-5 Part 2 coming soon?
Maybe we might put a pause on that for the time being.
Very good. What do you think of the MX-5 though?
It's such a fantastic car. It's beautiful. I'm kind of devastated that I crashed it because it was a really nice, super nice car. It was a beautiful color too. It was the RF hardtop. I really liked it. So dynamic, fun. But yeah, it just kicked out and lost it.
That happens. I mean, it happens to the very best in the world. So you're among some notable names there. And I think the important thing is you're okay. It's just a car at the end of the day. And the best thing is it happened on a racetrack and not on the public road, which is, I mean, that if you're going to do it, best place to do it.
The car did a fantastic job of protecting me. Things could have been so much worse.
All right, well, we're very glad to have you back and we're very glad to have you joining us. But before we dive into what we're going to talk about today, these are the top stories on the carexpert.com.au website. Tradies and small business owners could be in for a happier 2025 if the opposition have their way. Shadow Treasurer and Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Susan Ley, has promised to increase the instant asset write-off from $20,000 to $30,000 if elected next year. Whilst it's a far cry from the $150,000 write-off that existed during the COVID years, it would go a long way to helping struggling small businesses. CPA tax lead Jenny Wong supported the plan, stating this measure will provide small businesses with much-needed certainty to plan for the future. Insurer Yui has revealed some surprising figures around the cost of insuring the modern motor car. Data taken from 2022, 2023 and 2024 model years has revealed that insuring a hybrid is not only cheaper than insuring a full EV, but also full internal combustion vehicles. The median cost to insure a $50,000 to $75,000 EV was $1,887, whilst the ICE was $1,393 and the hybrid just $1,219. A detailed report is available at carexpert.com.au and I'll put a link in the description for you to read more. The MG4 has become Australia's cheapest EV after getting $10,000 slashed from its sticker price. The entry-level 51 Excite is now $39.90 drive away, undercutting the MG ZS Excite by $4,000. Those hoping to get their hands on one best do so, as the offer only runs until October 31st. And are you looking to take the legwork out of buying your next car?
If so, have you heard of Help Me Car Expert? All you need to do is go to Google, type in Help Me Car Expert, or scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you to the CarExpert website. It's not just me or Sean doing the video stuff. We're like a big company, 60 full-time employees, and on our website you're going to find news, reviews, and also our car chooser tool. If you're unsure which car you want, all you do is enter in all of your requirements. It'll spit out a stack of options. You can read the reviews, watch the videos, and then we can even put you in touch with one of our friendly dealers.
All right, so if you work at the Toyota office, which is just around the corner from our office here, it's been a big week for you, hasn't it? Let's dive in. Let's start with Tundra. Because Jack, you're the only person at CarExpert that's driven a Tundra, funnily enough. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so big news with Tundra. It's been a long time coming. You will soon be able to actually buy one. Up until now, you've had to be part of this lease thing where you had to be one of the 300 signed up with this lease where you pay a monthly subscription fee essentially just to have the car for now and to give it back once that period is ended. But mid-November, you can buy a Tundra. So big news.
All right, so I mean, the Tundra that we're now getting, it is the same as what these guys have been testing, which is part of they were all part of the exclusive Toyota club, obviously. They've probably bought a lot of Land Cruisers in the past to get their hands on a Tundra. But what are we looking at with Tundra in terms of engine? Yeah,
so only one spec available currently in Australia. It's the Limited, and it comes with a 3.4 litre twin-turbo V6 hybrid, although Toyota doesn't market it as a hybrid.
Oh, no, they have a great name, don't they?
They call it the iForce Max engine.
Right. It's just like the car that they built on Top Gear.
But yes, the reason I should get into, the reason why it's taken so long for people to actually be able to buy this in Australia is Toyota and Walkinshaw, the people that are doing the conversion, has spent a long time just perfecting the conversion process. Unlike other manufacturers, which I won't name, which have a blue oval, have had a few recalls relating to all that kind of fun stuff. So it's a big deal for Toyota because Toyota has really high standards for how it produces cars, and that's why it took so long for it to happen. But it is mid-November. One variant called the Limited.
Which is almost like a mid-spec in the States, isn't it? It's nowhere near the top.
Yeah, they're considerably lower end and there are really high-end variants. But Toyota did say there is a higher spec model coming at some point next year, so speculate away. All
right, well, actually, let's do that and then we'll go back to how they make them. I'm curious, they make a TRD Pro version in the States, which is like I guess it's like the ZL1 or the ZR2 version of the Silverado, and it's like that off-road running thing. Do you think they might bring that, or do you think they might do like a GR Sport to keep in sort of tandem with what they're doing with the rest of their range?
I think it would be a little bit strange to have TRD naming in Australia, given we've moved away from that and now have GR. Although that would muddy things here, it'd be very strange. But I think definitely there'd be the market for an off-road spec version to go up against Silverado, ZR2 and the like.
So it's converted by Walkinshaw and they do Rams, they do the Chevys. This is like one of the first times I can remember that Toyota are actually taking something out of house to do the work. I mean, this is a big moment for them.
Absolutely. This is like the first time globally from my memory. It's a huge deal for Toyota, and that's why Toyota has been working really closely with Walkinshaw to make sure everything is perfect, there are no issues, and customers will love the cars.
Well, I do happen to know a couple of people that are on the lease plan driving them, and they love them. So I guess it says something. And we recently drove the Lexus LX that has the same engine minus the hybrid system, and that engine is fantastic. So I think that's very exciting. Do we have a price for it yet?
A lot.
Yeah, fair enough.
Something I will mention is, I talked about it just before, but the iForce Max engine is a hybrid. When I drove it, it was not quite really hybrid, so I can understand why Toyota hasn't really lent into that branding for the engine. But it is really cool how you can drive around on EV mode. It's really weird, actually, in such a large vehicle at low speeds predominantly. And it also completely turns off as soon as you connect a trailer. Instead, the electric motor assists and makes the acceleration a lot more progressive and eases off the amount of load for the petrol engine.
Well, it's interesting that Toyota announced that this week. They're going into battle against Chevrolet and Ford with this, which they're also planning to do on track, aren't they, Josh? There's a big announcement they made at the same time as Tundra, that I think actually preceded the Tundra announcement.
Yeah, that's right, Sean. Interesting they announced these things together, but they're going to supercars.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you call it Supra cars now, is that?
Very good.
I guess no, they are entering the supercar series from 2026 with the Toyota Supra. Now, you made a couple of good jokes in the office about it's the latest in the long line of coupes that they don't make anymore that are going into it. Now, they do still make the Supra, but I guess why do you think Toyota now have decided is the time to enter into a racing category, like a premium racing category?
Short answer, I don't know.
Okay.
And I'm still trying to figure that out. It's strange timing. Firstly, the Supra is probably leaving production rumoured in 2026. Perhaps not much later than that. Yeah, excellent timing. So it will be just like the Camaro. It won't be in production while it's racing. And secondly, Toyota already do so well here in terms of selling their cars, and they have motorsport exposure through the GR86 series and in the Australian Rally Championship as well. So it does seem like strange timing. And financially, I've also got questions about how much sense it makes for them.
Okay, well, I mean, the interesting thing is they are entering with Walkinshaw, who do the conversions of the Tundra, as we just spoke about. But the Walkinshaw Andretti Uniting racing team are going to be switching from Mustangs to Supras. Now, I guess from Toyota's perspective, they must see some future and some relevance with this car and Australia as a market, right?
Yeah, I think the Supra is kind of an underrated sports car, and it's not a big volume seller though, and I don't think it's ever going to be, especially in Australia. So that is probably the only car that they could realistically use in the supercars environment. But they're throwing in Lexus 5-litre V8s, so they're not using the Turbo 6 that came in the Supra originally anyway.
I think that's the right call, because I mean, supercars is. Everyone still calls them V8 supercars. Like, it's very much about the V8s and the noise. Unfortunately, we won't be able to buy a V8 Supra as far as we know, right?
Oh, that would be an incredible car, though.
5-litre is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I dare to dream that, I run out limited edition, something could happen, but I doubt it.
Yeah, there might be a Walkinshaw special. I mean, they are the right people to do it. I guess the thing, from Toyota's perspective, they have sort of dipped in the sales in VFACs, falling behind Ford a little bit in terms of Ranger v Hilux. Obviously, RAV is up there. But do you think that they're sort of thinking long-term about their sales in Australia, especially in that ute market? Because let's be honest, Hilux is going to be the target market with going into supercars, and then Tundra as well. Are they looking to try and grow that market a little bit more? Are they trying to take back that spot from Ranger?
I'm sure that's a big part of the strategy, but supercars as a sport has also been on the decline. And I don't know if they've got the size of fan base there to really bring in a whole new amount of sales to the road cars. I think especially the people who are already buying Hiluxes, there's not many people that you're converting over to the brand. Perhaps, there's Ranger buyers who are still supporting the blue oval in supercars, but that's about it.
Okay, so interesting call from Toyota. I, for one, am very excited to see it happen. I'm also probably more excited to get behind the wheel of a Tundra and see how that thing drives. Okay, let me throw it out to you guys. we'll move past the Supra because unfortunately we are a new car podcast, not a racing car podcast. Of the big utes now, we've got F-150, we've got Ram 1500, Chevy 1500, and now the Tundra. Obviously, Jack's the only one that's driven the Tundra. But what would be your pick based on paper? Which one would you be going for?
I'll go first.
Yeah, go for it.
It's silly. I still want to go for the F-150. Regardless of all of the recalls, it still interests me as a car that the pickup that I would go for. I really liked the twin turbo V6. It was a sweet engine that just had enough power that made me not really want a V8. Towing capability, it's really just up there. And the interior feels properly luxe. I'm actually looking forward to the update that's coming. So it gets like a bigger infotainment system, screen, and a standard digital instrument cluster, which is not the case for the base XLT at the moment. Also ditches the halogen headlights for a complete LED setup. So it might make that base model XLT a lot more appealing for buyers.
Especially at well north of $100,000. But I do have to say, part of me agrees with you about the F-150 because I think it's the name is a big part of it. It's like Mustang, it's like Falcon, like Commodore. Like it's just a cool name. Everyone knows what an F-150 is. But all right, what about you, Josh? What would you be getting in?
Oh, this is good timing because we had a Ram 1500 TRX in last week.
Good man.
And I hadn't seen one of those in the flesh before then, but I absolutely loved it. That supercharged V8 is just, it makes you feel like a child when you're in it. All the supercharged wine, and it's so big. We lined it up against Paul's Raptor in the car park, and that was quite funny seeing the size comparison. The T-Rex, it's a silly thing, but it's so much fun, and if you have that much money to splash on a big ute, then why not?
Look, I completely agree with you. The T-Rex is, I mean, that's all you need in a car.
It really is your last chance to get one too, because they're...
Well, it's called the final edition.
Exactly that. So this is your last chance. If they haven't already sold out and you want a crazy car that will like stick in your memory like anything, now is your chance to get one of those.
So yes, please rush out and buy a TRX Final Edition because every time I see one on the road, it makes me very happy. It makes me incredibly happy. All right, let's stick with V8s. Last week, Scott alluded to the fact that he was driving the new Mustang that you can't buy. So let's take a little trip back through time and see what he has to say about the Mustang Dark Horse. Hello, you join us in the past. I am a week ago, Sean. This is a week ago, Scott, who's still here.
Hang on, that's my camera, isn't it? Hello.
Yes, we've shuffled things around just to make this easier for when you are watching or listening to the podcast that is happening a week or so from now. But Scott's come back in past self to talk about...
Same clothes as last time, just a coincidence.
Same with me, but to talk about the Mustang. Not the first time you've driven a Mustang.
No. So
the first time in Australia, right?
Yeah, we drove the new Dark Horse in the States about 12 months ago, just over, on the track. And this time around, we drove the EcoBoost, the GT, and the Dark Horse. So got a whole...
The whole stable.
The whole stable. That's exactly the word we're after.
Past Sean has trouble thinking about words sometimes, yes.
So yeah, this car's quite overdue for Australia. It was meant here about 12 months ago, but it's now finally arrived. We drove the EcoBoost just on the highway, and it's interesting, Ford in the US told us that about 50% of people go for that model.
Really?
In Australia, it's closer to about 12%.
Yeah, right.
I think part of that's down to the fact that for a long time, people would buy the V6, they'd buy the Fleet Special or the Rental Special. Now that's not an option. The EcoBoost is the one that looks like a Mustang, but is quite a bit cheaper, and you can show up to your high school parking lot and, I don't know, I assume throw footballs at nerds or something, whatever they do in the high school movies. In Oz, it's still a few of them around, but it's not really a big seller. And as much as it is a really good car, it's got plenty of punch, it's more efficient than the V8, and because it's lighter and has a lot less weight over the nose, it handles better as well. It's just not the Mustang that, you know, I really want as an enthusiast.
It's the sound. That's what a Mustang is about, right? Like it's that V8 sound.
Exactly. It's the V8 sound. It's the way that it sort of makes you feel when you turn it on and you get that warm rumble through the car. And that's something that the Mustang does, even though it's more expensive now than it used to be, pretty much better than anything else for close to the same price. As soon as you press that start button, the whole car gives a sort of shimmy and a rumble, and you get the awesome V8 noise, even in neighbour-friendly quiet mode.
Good. Bugger the neighbours.
Exactly.
Yeah, bugger the neighbours. They should go buy a Mustang themselves. They'll be happier
Exactly.
about it.
They'll be happier. They'll have less money for fuel, and they'll be happy because of that for some reason.
Yeah, they'll be happy.
Yeah.
No one's ever been sad in a Mustang. Well, it looks like no one's ever been sad in a jet ski, right? You know,
Sure, we'll go with that.
Anyway, look, you did have a drive of it fast, but then you had a drive of it slow just for the podcast, didn't you?
Exactly. So did the usual fast car slowly around a track. In this case, talking about some of the really cool manual tech that Ford puts in the GT and the Dark Horse. They have different 6-speed gearboxes. The Get-Trag in the GT, it's a Tremec in the Dark Horse. But both have no lift shift and auto rev matching. And it's the sort of tech we've talked about on the podcast before. It makes driving a manual car quickly way more accessible. We've both driven manuals for quite a long time, and I can rev match, but on a racetrack with a helmet on while you're concentrating on so many other things, learning how the car works, and I suppose getting a feel for your braking points, what you need to be doing without worrying about botching a shift and getting compression lock up at the back, makes that auto rev match tech really handy. And then no lift shift means that if you're trying to do a heroic pull away from the lights, or you want to be really quick in a straight line on the track, you just keep your foot buried, put the clutch in, change gear, and it will cut the ignition until you step off the throttle, and then it'll bleed the throttle back in, so it's a smooth upshift, which is just tech that makes these cars more accessible.
Hello and welcome to another episode of driving this fast car slowly around a racetrack with no helmet on. I am at the Bend in South Australia, and we're driving the new Ford Mustang Dark Horse and the GT. Now, we actually talked about the Dark Horse on the podcast last year. That was an American first drive. This time, we're on Australian soil. First up, some bad news. You can't actually get a Dark Horse in Australia. There were 1,000 of them. They're all sold out. The good news is they still make them in America, so maybe down the track you'll be able to get another one here. I have actually already done a full review on this car. It'll be live on the website on Thursday, September 19. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but what I want to show you is two cool features. The first is called no lift shift. And in this manual Dark Horse, if I downshift from third to second and make a full throttle upshift, I don't need to lift off the accelerator. I just keep the accelerator buried, the car cuts the power, and then as soon as you step off the clutch, it puts the power back in for you. It's useful on the move. It's really useful if you're trying to get away in a hurry and go from first to second without looking really awkward. The other one is auto rev matching. Now, I know that if you're watching this podcast, you might be a bit of an enthusiast. You might know how to heel and tow or rev match yourself, but when you're on the track, and we can cut to some footage of me doing that there, you have a lot to think about. It's hard to know exactly how hard you need to hit the accelerator to get the revs up and to do it smoothly, especially if you're in your own car and you don't want to compression lock up and really damage it. So auto rev matching, when it's set up like it is in this car, means that driving around the track now, I can go from fourth to third, and you can hear it, third to second, and it's perfect. The car automatically blips the throttle as soon as you step off the clutch. It gives you exactly what you need again. It's tech like that you get in the Mustang. You can get it in BMWs and the Honda Civic Type R as well. It makes driving a manual on track maybe more accessible than it used to be. For our full thoughts on the Mustang, check out the written review on the website. Otherwise, back to you, Sean.
All right, so look, Dark Horse, the downside of that is, even though your review is about the Dark Horse, you can't actually buy one, can you?
No, you can't. So 1,000 came to Australia, and they're all spoken for by dealers. Those dealers all have waiting lists. So if someone pulls out, there's someone else ready to hop on that Dark Horse and ride it out of the showroom. The good news is the GT is still a really fun car to drive. The Dark Horse, the gearbox is meaningfully better, and it's a little bit tighter. But ultimately, I don't think people are going to be buying these as track cars. Most of these people that I know of, at least, drive them to and from work or to and from their country house on the weekend. They're cars that make you feel something, but they're not race cars. And the GT, especially with the 6-speed manual, still is just such a lovely car to drive. It's still really old school. You feel like you're in a bit of a time capsule because it's got a nice sort of clunky shift. It makes all the right noises. It's big and it's comfortable. But it is also improved over the old car. The cabin's much nicer, it rides a bit better, and there is a little bit more going on at the front end when you want to turn it into a corner. So as much as it's a shame you can't get the track focus one, I think the Dark Horse is the one that, if it were my money, I'd want to be buying. That GT still does all of the right things for a Mustang buyer, and to be honest, I don't think too many people are going to be too disappointed.
All right, so what would be your pick then?
Given you can't get a Dark Horse, I would have a GT with the manual. I'd be opting for the Recaro seats inside because they just look and feel right. And then I'd probably be spending a little bit of money at my local Herod Performance shop to give it a bit more noise again.
Not that we encourage aftermarket additions to the cars, but if they're backed by Ford warranty, maybe?
And even if they're not, if you know what you're getting into, do whatever you want to your Mustang.
Yeah, look, Robbie Herod does a great job. I mean,
Absolutely.
the guy knows his way around a Mustang. So, yeah, it's, I think if you're going to go to someone, that's the man to go to.
That's where I'd be going.
Fair enough. All right, thank you very much, Scott. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
back.
I'm going to disappear into the ether again.
Yes, back to you, President Sean. All right, unfortunately, that's the last time you will see Scott on the Car Expert podcast, unless he drives another car slowly on a racetrack and sends us a video of it. Then I guess we might put it on just for old time's sake. But back to three people that have socks, and we're going to talk about the Ford Ranger plug-in hybrid, because we've all known it's coming for a while. Like they announced it quite a while ago, but they didn't really tell us anything about it. But now they've announced everything about it, except for the price. So let's just dive in. Jack, do you want to tell us about what engine it's going to have in it?
Yeah, so it's thankfully a familiar engine to if you've driven the Volkswagen Amarok, or if you're familiar in other regions this engine is sold. It's a 2.3 litre turbocharged four-cylinder petrol engine powered the likes of the Mustang as just spoke about, and Focus RS, this and that and the other. It also comes with an electric motor. At this stage, total system outputs haven't been announced yet, but the petrol engine does produce 222 kilowatts and 452 newton meters. The electric motor also produces 75 kilowatts, but you can't add those together to make the total system output, because it doesn't work like that, because different power peaks are made at different points throughout the rev band.
Yeah, they've been very sneaky to not tell us what the combined output is, but tell us what the individual outputs
Yes.
are. So that's very smooth, Ford.
Also comes with powering this electric motor is a rather small, unfortunately, 11.8 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery. And it's meant to have a range of about 45 kilometres, which in my eyes isn't very much, but you do have to keep in mind this is a big, heavy ute. There's a lot of stuff to lug around, so I'm really keen to see what it's like. Now, in terms of Australia, all of the Ranger PHEVs are going to be coming from South Africa. Now that
Which is where they make the Volkswagens.
Yes.
They make Rangers for Europe, but not for Australia. It's just very confusing, but
our regular Rangers come from Thailand instead. But the main reason why South Africa is a big deal is because there's a 5% import tariff as part of that, which could theoretically mean higher prices for this model once it arrives.
Well, I guess the thing with that, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there'll be some fringe benefit tax rebates available to novated lease buyers and stuff, and that's where I guess a lot of these people that are buying this car would be coming from, because they're probably more small business owners, tradies, things like that. They're going to be looking at the Ranger PHEV, right?
Yeah, well, from memory, the FBT exemption stuff is meant to be ending pretty soon, like in 2025, and that's when the Ranger PHEV is meant to be arriving. So unless the exemption is extended by the government, we might miss out on that kind of stuff, which almost, in my eyes, negates the purpose and the benefit of that kind of vehicle.
All right, so it's still going to have 3.5 ton towing, even though it is a petrol. But I guess it's really here to go up against the Shark, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah, and on paper, it's not necessarily a kind comparison to the Ranger, because the Shark said that they're going to have 100 kilometres of electric-only range, and the Ranger's only managing half of that. And the BYD Shark's probably going to be cheaper as well. I mean, we don't have pricing for either yet, officially confirmed, but early indication is the Shark's going to start around 70, maybe a bit lower, and the Ranger, I would say, you're not getting much change from 80. So that'll be interesting to see how they sell.
Something I'll note on that is the Ranger is going to come in, the Ranger PHEV, I should say, going to come in a range of different variants.
Welcome back.
There's going to be XLT, Sport, Wild Track, and then also a special Storm Track for the PHEV. So we could see very affordable. We could see pretty cheap and competitive price at the XLT price. Don't know what that is yet. But I am a little sad to not actually see an XL entry-level dual cab, because that's where I would see this vehicle making the most sense, at least from a fleet standpoint, because that's where this vehicle makes the most sense to me. It's parked on the side of the road. You're using the battery pack to power this, that, and the other. Why not have an XL base model? Like, it's cheapest. That's what the companies would go for. But
well, I think that's a big thing, that one of the things they've finally done, and they promised it when they first announced Ranger, and I think you get it on the American spec Rangers, but you finally got outlets in the tray with this one. Two 3.45 kilowatt outlets, a 6.9 kilowatt output total, that you can actually run tools and things like that off from the back of the tray. So you can finally put your ruler on the tailgate and your, what are they, the little clamp holes. You can finally put them to use with actual power tools now. I guess though, the problem is this car, in my opinion, and I'll open this up to you guys, I think it's not really a tradie car. I don't think tradies going to flock to buy it. I think it's a lifestyle ute, but what do you guys think?
Well, I mean, the plug-in hybrid system, I don't think it's necessarily designed to be driven as a full EV. It's more a really efficient hybrid system where you're going to get a bit more power, a bit more efficiency, and yeah, it's going to be ideal for family buyers who want to take it out on the weekend.
What do you think, Joe?
I also think it's a bit of a lifestyle vehicle, because if you're using this ute on EV mode on the way to the work site, the battery's going to be flat by the time you get there, and then you won't be able to use it. So to make the most, you have to use the petrol engine, so then negates what the benefit is once again. So you're best using it as a lifestyle vehicle just to drive for funsies, and as Josh said, it's an efficient hybrid instead.
I mean, we've driven the Amarok, and it is a fantastic engine. Like, it actually goes really well.
Has a cool noise too.
Yeah.
The petrol engine doesn't quite make sense in a ute that size, but I love it.
Yeah, it is actually, I'm not going to say a mini Raptor, but it's probably the closest thing, this is probably going to be the closest thing you get to a Raptor without going into Raptor in terms of power and handling. It probably has better grip on the road than a Raptor does, to be fair. Look, I guess, just to wrap it up, when are we expecting to see this thing? And I guess, what are your thoughts on how much it's going to cost? I'll open it up.
Pretty certain it's meant to be coming next year, so it won't be too far away. And obviously the BYD Shark is big competition for this car. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them side by side and seeing which one wins, because on paper, I don't know if I'm convinced on this car.
Josh?
Yeah, well, I agree. I mean, I've got high hopes for the Shark, and I'm known in the office as a bit of a BYD fan, kind of going against the grain a little bit. But in terms of pricing, I mean, as I said earlier, I think even though you've got the multiple model grades with the Ranger PHEV, I'm thinking at least in 70s starting point, which would be for the XLT.
All right, well, leave a comment, let us know. Would you buy the Shark or would you buy the Ranger plug-in hybrid? Leave a comment, let us know down below. It wouldn't be a CarExpert podcast without doing our picks of the week. I know you have one, Jack, but I'll get Josh to start first. Mate, what is your pick this week?
I feel a little bit like awkward timing, because I kind of chose mine without remembering that Jack was coming back on the podcast. But recently I bought an MX-5. And in that process, there was a lot of research involved, and I kind of came across what I would call a forgotten car of the past, which was the Bullet Roadster, kind of made in the early 2000s by a company up in Queensland. They essentially converted original MX-5s into V8 powered beasts, essentially. They took a few different engines. They took the rotary originally from the RX-7 Mazda, and then they progressed to a Rover 4.6 litre V8, and then to Toyota V8s as well, and final edition got a supercharger. And I just thought, going through doing that research and seeing some really old grainy car reviews on YouTube of that car, it just took me back to a different time, because you would not see something like that built today.
Oh God, you wouldn't put a Rover V8 in anything. That's a bold choice. The Toyota V8 I can understand, but yeah, I guess, well, the important question, is that going to happen to yours? You're going to drop a V8 in it?
Oh, look, if it didn't cost more than the car itself, I would probably consider it.
There might be a wrecked Commodore or Falcon sitting at a wrecking yard somewhere with a perfectly good engine you could take out of there.
LS swap anything, right?
Yeah, exactly right. All right, Jack, what's your pick this week, mate?
Yeah, so I'm doing my best James Wong impression this week. I spotted this company on Instagram a little while ago, but I've been keeping tabs with them. I don't quite remember the name off the top of my head, but it's in the UK and they convert Volkswagen Caddy vans to make them look like Golf GTIs and Golf Rs. And I think it's the coolest thing I've seen in a very long time. There's just something about the Caddy that really interests me, especially the current gen model. Given it's based on Golf Mark 8, it's got a pretty upmarket interior, very up-to-date in infotainment-wise, but to make it look like a Golf GTI, Golf R with the seats and the body kit, the cool DRLs, it's just so bizarre. And even stranger is they keep like the base diesel engines, from what I understand. So it just looks really fast, but it's really not.
It's funny you say that because you can go the whole hog. I have seen a series on YouTube where they convert it with a 2.5 litre Audi TTRS 5-cylinder in the Caddy.
Deadly.
That is my dream.
So
oh my God, yes.
Why not complete the package and do both?
Coming soon, Jack converts a Caddy with an Audi TTRS engine. All right, well, mine is not a conversion of any sort. It is a video that Bentley released of former F1 world champion Damon Hill and upcoming racing and daughter of the late Ken Block, Leah Block, drifting Bentley flying spurs around some sort of racetrack / airfield in England. I mean, not the usual marketing for Bentley, but I mean, it was unreal because these things are massive. Like you've seen a flying spur, it is nearly 6 meters long, and they are just sliding these things everywhere. And I just think if Ken is looking down from wherever he is right now, I think he would be very proud of his daughter doing that. That was pretty epic. And I think the best way you can use a Bentley is just absolutely wasting some rear tyres with that insane engine it has. But that brings us to the end of the podcast this week, boys. I want to say thank you so much for coming, taking time out of your day and joining us. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Well, thank you. I appreciate being back here. It's really nice to be back and being part of the team again. I did have a long time away, so I'm hoping I've just slotted straight back in, and I'm looking forward to us talking a lot more about cars in the future. And I hope you have me back.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure your partner is sick of hearing you talk about cars, so it's good that you're back away. Josh, anything from you?
Nope.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you all of you for coming along, listening. If you do like the podcast, consider leaving a comment and subscribing if you're on YouTube, hitting follow on whatever podcast streaming platform you listen to us on. But until next time, have a good one.